Today, we are talking about what buyers need to know in 2025. But before we go into our topic today, I want to say thank you to everyone who has subscribed to our new channel. We are new here on YouTube, and we want to thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, we are not professional YouTubers yet, are we? Uh, I'm
Working on it.
Jared Rail. I'm a realtor and appraiser. I'm here with Tim Hawley, broker owner of Long River Realty, and Ravina Turnage, who is the branch manager at our Quartzsite location.
And I'm Tim Hawley again. I'm the broker of the company. I'm still a baby in the business. I've only been doing this for 25 years. I've been through a couple cycles, which is the good thing. You know, it's like, wow, you really, I call them learning experiences. I've had a lot of different watching the market go up and down, and everybody has their opinion. Is this an up market? Is it a down market? Is it a buyer market? Is it a seller market? And I think that's some of the things that we can talk about today. Are the interest rates too high? Is it, you know, date the rate and married the home? There's all kinds of deals that we can go with there that we're going to talk about today. And I think one of them that is a rumor, I'm going to say rumor out there because bad news sells. So you can always try to hear the bad stuff, but is inventory. There's no inventory. Or there's too much inventory, or inventory's been higher than it's been in forever. And that may be the case. Over the years, and I always tell this story, I've done a lot of consulting jobs, and I was on a big project one time, and I went in and I asked the gentleman, I looked down and said, all right, we're getting closer, we're wrapping this up. What do the numbers say? And he looks over me and smiles, and basically, like any kind of report, the numbers say whatever you want them to say. So I think that, people you hear out there all the time, well, there's a lot of inventory. And Jared and I were, going through, fumbling around this morning, taking inventory for Mojave County, La Paz County, Maricopa County, Arizona. Then we spread it out to the United States. And people, there's not much more than a 4-month inventory floating around out there, no matter what the media might have to say.
Yeah,
Um,
Tim, I saw. To piggyback on that, I saw that about everywhere we looked was about 4 to 5 months of housing supply. And I saw an article the other day that along those lines, there's this huge influx of supply, and prices have gone down by this amount and this time, but they're including a time from 3 years ago when we were at the highest point in the market, and most of that decline was within a few months of that. We've been pretty flat for the last couple of years, and that peak surrounded with when the interest rates got real high, or to where, I mean, historically they're not even that high. Historically, 7% is not a lot to pay for money, but when we got to that new norm coming out of really low interest rates, um, we needed a little bit of an adjustment, but it's been pretty stable now for the last couple of years. Would you say you're seeing pretty much the same thing?
yeah, I've seen it. It's been stabilized. I mean, I'm thinking I am an unfortunate one. Dana and I are. We have a house with a very, very low interest rate, but the interest rate on the house we owned prior to that was over double to what we have now. So that was more of a closer to a 5% at that time, and that was a normal rate. So yeah, people they got a little spoiled there. And they always say that the best time to buy a home was 20 years ago. The next best time is now, because there is about, like, say, 4 months worth of inventory. Don't sit around and say, oh, I'll just wait for something else, because if you fall in love with it, somebody else is going to fall in love with it. These interest rates are not unreal, and they're affordable. They are
They'll be
affordable.
saying the same thing 20 years from now. The best time to buy a house was 20 years ago, right?
Yep.
Because
Yep.
I mean, if you look at the trend over time, yeah, there's dips, but it always goes up. The market does go up and down, but in the long term, it's always gone up. If you look at the overall trend,
Right.
it's a matter of
Yeah.
when it goes up.
Yeah, you want to make money, invest in real estate, and especially it's make sure you can afford it. Obviously, that's the first thing. Don't try to keep up with the Joneses, especially for a lot of you buyers out there that are first time home buyers. There's still a lot of programs for you. When I look back at the homes I've had over the year, they say the smaller the home, the bigger the love, because everybody's closer together in that home to spend time with. Don't have to have that big home to spread out everywhere. So, we can talk about some of the different programs, and we'll talk about some of that and some of the experiences that we're all having in the industry, what to look for, advantages for some of the buyers, what they can look for. One of them used to be days on market. Buyers would sit there and look and say, "Wow, it's what's wrong with this house? It's been on the market for a while." And I want to keep talking back to when I first got into the business. The average time, and we always did our listings on the sell side for 12 months because that was the general cycle, to go through all the seasons to get everybody there and get the right pricing. So, for a home not to sell for 3 or 4 or 5 months, buyers need to sit back and say, "Hey, there's not anything wrong with a house that's been on the market for 90 days. That's fine. Don't think that there's something wrong with the house. Make your offers, do your due diligence, and that's okay. Don't look and say, well, gee, it's been on there for more than 60 days. There's a problem. Let's go on to the next house, because that's generally not the case."
Yeah, and regardless of what somebody if you think you might like a house, go see it. If regardless of what you think you can make a story out of the list price, go see the house and see if you like the house, and and then you decide what the house is worth to you and make your offers accordingly. Right? You don't have to offer what they're asking, and you don't have to offer less than what they're asking. You got to go see the house to make that determination, and then go back to the drawing board and try to figure out what it is you think you should be offering based on what you saw. If you like the house, the key is find the house you want and figure out what to offer.
Days on market can be tough in Corsight too because, it's a seasonal destination, right? So sometimes people are listing at the end of the season, so they carry on to the next season. And I think buyers, misinterpret that as, oh, there's something wrong with the house, as you were saying.
Yeah,
So,
it's and now I say too, if a house sells, you see some of these different realtors, and don't get me wrong, I like everybody, I get along with everybody, and sometimes it just happens. You put the price on there, that's the right price. You put it on the market, boom! It's just like throwing your bait in the water. First cast, boom! Someone's taking it, and then you're sitting there thinking, "Man, did I not price? Did I miss something?"
mhm.
So that happens occasionally. But I've never bragged about that because then it's always in the back of my head that I missed something. Generally not, because I'm pretty thorough on what's going to happen, and and you got to let the buyers know too, buyers agents. If you're going to think that you're going to try to lowball a brand new home on the market, you might get it because you never know the seller's story. But if a property's been on there 60 days, 90 days, 120 days, that doesn't mean anything's wrong with the house. Like Jared says, make the offer. Go see it. Take a look. See what's there. Um, and some of the important things, buyers, be prepared. The right realtor will inform them and not allow them. Make sure you have your pre-qualifications done. What kind of loan you're going to get, how much you qualify for. Make sure that your lender is spoken with your agent to see in case you're going to need some concessions or you're going to need some help with all that stuff. So that way it can be relayed when making those offers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anytime anybody calls me and wants to look at houses, the first thing that we want to know is we need to know what we can look for. I don't want to find you a house that's not realistic for what you can qualify for
Mhm.
and things like that. So the first step really should be to find out where you stand, make sure you're qualified and what you're qualified for, so that we're looking at the right stuff. We don't want to look at stuff that's not gonna work for you. So and I think in a future episode we'll probably pull a lender in, right? And
Yeah.
get some insight from lenders on that and what they're looking for. So that'll be nice to get a lender on here. And
Yeah, and buyers, everybody's starting to get through this stuff that went on through NAR and AAR about having to sign the buyer broker agreement up front, and how it's in place that if you buy a home, the buyers are responsible, and that's part of what we talk to the buyers about. Say, look, we're working for you. Yes, we do have an agreement that you're responsible for X amount of dollar of our pay because we work hard for our pay. You're never going to see what we really do the entire time we're doing stuff for you, because a lot of stuff goes behind the scenes. But what I have noticed with the buyers lately, that we're getting into August will be a year. We're into May now, but the buyers are pretty much understand the program, what's going on. But for any of you buyers out there that haven't heard about the paperwork you have to sign prior to us being able to show you property, please don't get mad at us. This is just regulations that we all must follow, and we'll sit down and explain it. If you have any questions, like I say, me being the designated broker, I want to make sure everybody understands what's going on. I've listened to, I think, just about every one of our agents, and everybody has it down correctly, and we talk to people through it. And I don't see it becoming, as time goes on, everything, the shock of everything wears down. So I don't see the buyers, getting all upset when we ask them to sign a buyer broker agreement. But just buyers, so you know that that is still going to be a requirement along with the lending prequal and the buyer broker agreement, to make sure that we're on track for you, because we're working for you to find you the right home at the right price, and that you're able to go and view these homes and pick out the one you want.
And Tim, back to the changes from that has almost been a year from August 17th last year. Is that state specific, or is tell me more about that?
The United States Pacific. Now, I've seen a couple states have bucked the system a little bit, and they have sued the courts, where they're not making it so the buyer and the buyer's agent have to sign an agreement prior to showing. They've made it prior to offer now,
Hmm.
but Arizona is still prior to showing, that must be signed. So, and we've even had it where we get referrals from other agents, and we'll ask that referral, so did you talk to your clients about? Yeah, they know what's going on, and that makes it nice. Or some of these others that we have, that yeah, we buy enough real estate, we understand what's going on, we know what we have to sign. It's getting out there. There are still a few people that might say they haven't heard about it. Usually it's the first time home buyers. And because a lot of people that we deal with in our area are people that are from outside the area, but they're selling their home, maybe where they're at, to buy a home in our area here. So they've already had to go through the spiel with their current realtor broker. And so when they're getting to us now, we're the second or third time they've heard about it. So it's been a lot easier to handle, and to be able to show, and everybody's starting to understand the system and what we have to do mandatory.
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, it's not a huge deal in that you're establishing with the buyer what they would agree to pay you. But should a buyer want or need that to be part of the negotiation, that's still part of the negotiation in the contract. And so
Yeah.
it's not saying you have to pay it or you have to pay it this way. It's just negotiating what the buyer is willing to pay, and end of story, right? The rest is figured out later. I did want to back up a little bit, Rovina. You talked about days on market, specifically in Quartzsite, and I
Mhm.
wanted to piggyback off of that a little bit because Quartzsite and other rural areas, what I've seen generally are going to have longer potential for longer days on market, given that they're smaller markets than what you might see in some of the big cities. Um, and that isn't always the case, but it's, the average marketing times can be longer in those
Right.
rural areas sometimes, right?
Yeah, and it's we're becoming the big city, one buyer at a time. one and so it's one of those ones. I remember I moved to Lake Havasu in 1987. My grandparents have been here since 1968, and I was little. And in coming here and loved it. This town had one signal light, and everything else was stoplights in Lake Havasu. And then, I always say, man, this place is getting big. Oh yeah, that's my fault, huh? I'm in the business. I'm in the business for making it big. So I can't really say nothing about it. But, what we call rural town now is, Lake Havasu's over 50,000. Bullhead City's getting that way. Kingman's having an explosion. And, to take a look at it, Ravina's down in Quartzsite. I'm telling you right now, people, Quartzsite's a secret. It's a little paradise. It's a secret. An interstate runs through it with two exits. It's going to be found. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts. I'm working on some subdivision stuff down there. So you heard it here first, people. If you're not buying in Quartzsite, you're not looking in Quartzsite, you better start, because find out where the people are going and get there first. There's your tip for the day.
Yeah,
So
talk about it turning into a city overnight, right? And when everybody comes in for the winter, it really changes the dynamic of the town.
yeah,
When,
Which is actually what I fell in love with, is that coming from Seattle and being raised in the suburbs of LA, um, I didn't know if I could live here because it's such a small town. Um, but the peace and quiet during the summer and all of the activity, it comes to life during the winter. It's so dynamic that I fell in love with it. And I'm like, this is the best of all worlds. I've got water up in Lake Havasu City when I want to do some river fun, during the summer when it gets super hot. um, and shopping, there's, 35 minutes, an hour away. It's just a nice, small, peaceful, friendly, great place to live.
yeah, and that's how all of our towns are spread out. It's not like one after another, but every town hosts a different amenity. So even when you do take your travels, you're going here, and even being down in Quartzsite, you're only a couple hours from Phoenix.
Exactly.
And my grandma told me when I left Southern California from the big town of San Dimas, California, back, I graduated there in high school and lived there, and I moved to Havasu, like I say, in 1987. And she looked at me and says, Tim, if you can make it here 5 years, you can be here forever. So that was 1987. This is 2025. So I think I've made my 5 year mark and watched everything grow and had a great time. And it's just, this whole area of Arizona, Northwest Arizona, it's a piece of heaven up here.
Yeah,
And,
it is.
they always say you call someplace paradise, kiss it goodbye. I think that was an Eagles song. And go ahead and give the disclaimer, Ravina. The Eagles are not endorsing this podcast in any way. So I know. I
But
figured.
we do invite it. We
But
welcome the endorsements.
yeah. So, anyways, but that's just part of some of the wonderful stuff of this area. So buyers, whether you're from out of town, whether you're local, all of us here have the experience. We've been around the block. Ask us the questions. Don't wait. Start getting with your lenders. Get with us. Now is the time to buy. We're right into that area where interest rates, believe it or not, have went down. Even though the Feds didn't lower the rates, because I follow those, the interest rates is down about 0.25%. If you take a look at that, and when you figure out finances, that's some good money. So even though the Feds haven't dropped, the interest rates have dropped. And if you don't believe me, call your lender and then give us a call. So, and that goes along with Jared. I think we've all come to a consensus. There's only about 4.5 months maximum worth of inventory out there, buyer inventory.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
I mean, we came ranging from 4 to 5, which is still considered supply and demand being in balance. That's not considered an oversupply. You know, sometimes you'll see on a news outlet. I saw one the other day, and I can't remember what the number was. Maybe it was like 40. There's 40,000 houses available in the
yeah,
Phoenix metro area, but they don't tell you that they sell 10,000 a month in that area. That's
yeah,
only 4 months. That's not a crazy number of houses being available. So we are still pretty much seeing that we're in balance. You talked about rates and rates going down, and something that buyers should be aware of and pay attention to too. Sometimes you get these teaser rates thrown out there that are not realistic. You know, uh, but all you got to do is talk to a lender, talk to a real person. But a lot of times, some of the stuff that we see out there isn't realistic. But there are loans to be had, and if you are looking to own a house or you're looking to buy a house, waiting for the perfect time or the perfect rate or the perfect price can be a huge mistake. Um, I've had a couple of houses over the years. I was really interested, and I thought, I don't want to buy that. That's way too much money. That house isn't worth that. And then I'm kicking myself a year or two down the road. And the fact of the matter is, it's a house that I wanted, and by tomorrow, it might not look like such a bad deal anymore. If it's what you're looking for and what you want, and you need a house, things are always changing. Rates are going to change. You can refi down the road, um, potentially, and prices are going to change. But if rates go down, usually prices go up, right?
right. And something that that buyers, and it's hard because I'm not a arm twisting kind of person. I want someone to be comfortable in the decisions they make. And when someone sits there and tells me, "I love it," I love it. Okay, well, what would you like to do? I would like to think about it for a little while. Well, the problem is, and I've found this to be true for me, when I fall in love with something, somebody else does too. Because, that I don't have that unique of taste where I'm falling in this love with something that nobody else is going to want. It's pretty much that you have a great location, you have a great price, the house doesn't need a lot of work, or maybe it does, but that's okay. I like doing a lot of work, and a lot of people like that. It's the handy people out there are incredible. The do-it-yourselfers. Well, yeah, a lot of people used to judge paint colors. They used to judge cabinets. They used to judge. Not anymore because it's easier for them to head down to, and I won't name any names of any suppliers for paints or lumber or whatever you want, but there's places all around us that you can go and put your own personal touches on the places you're buying. And I look back at the houses that I always did. That was the fun part of the buying the house. It was like, you know what? Now I can put my touch on what it is that I want, and people are doing that. So, one of the things the buyer should know is they're everybody else out there. They're just like you. They're going to buy the house they can afford. They're going to put their own touch on it. If you can afford it, you want it, don't wait. Get it, buy it, because there's still a lot of things that we're going to protect you with. We're going to show you how to contact home inspectors. We're going to help you if there's sewer, you're going to be able to do those inspections, utilities, all the different safeguards we're going to take a look at to help you with that house. But I'll guarantee you, and it happens every time, and I've even noticed it on when I'm on the listing side. I'll get a house that, it sits there 30, 45 days. I'm not worried about it. That's a good time on the market. Then all of a sudden I get one phone call. And then all of a sudden I get another phone call. And then we have this system called showing time for our listings that the agents will, schedule a time to go show it. And just the other day, I was sitting there and I get the notifications to my phone. and I had one ring, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. We confirmed it, showing, yeah, go ahead, good time to go show, and then another, and then another one. I'm like, what the heck? Now we're having to schedule the different times to stagger these people going in and out of there. So, that's what I'm saying. If you find something that you really like, you really want to make yours, don't sit around and wait, buyers. Go after it. Do your negotiating, do your research. It's in the price range that you can afford. Do it. So, like I say, I always say, best time to buy real estate was 20 years ago. Next best time is now. And the only thing you can do wrong is not to do something. Make up your mind. Do not procrastinate. If you see something you like, make progress forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that you brought up in there about making, easy changes, finishing touches, that brings up a good point because when a buyer is looking at a house, there are certain things that are harder to change, right? Finding a floor plan that you like, or the right amount of closet space, or things like that. That's part of going to look at the house because we can all surf the web and we look at pictures and you find the perfect house and it's the one, and then you go out there and it's not quite what you expected, and the one you think that you're going to like the least ends up being the one that you love. So just looking around at the pictures online doesn't usually accomplish what you think it's going to. Sometimes you find the right houses, you can find the right finishes and things like that, but you can't find, it's the stuff you can't see online that's real important sometimes, and
Yeah.
that sometimes is the harder stuff to change.
Yeah. And even the neighborhoods, buyers, if you find an area that you want to be in, drive it 3 or 4 times, different times throughout the day. You know, what's the neighborhood like in the morning? What's the neighborhood like midday? What's it like in the evening? Especially buyers that have kids. If you go by there around 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, unless it's August in here, most of your kids are going to be outside playing, or you can just stop, roll down the windows and listen, and you can hear the activity in the neighborhoods going on. So that's sort of going to give you an idea. Hey, is this a good place? I have kids, other kids in the area, and do a little drive around. So take a look at the different times of the day of what's going on in the neighborhoods, because you're going to live in those neighborhoods throughout those different times of the day. And we can't tell you what's the good time, what's the good neighborhood, what's the good place. So buyers, when you start saying, hey, I want to buy, I think this is where I want to live, drive it, drive around, get to know it. Like Jared says, you're not going to be able to tell just by looking on the internet. And sometimes you get to a house and you're like, my compliments to the photographer. That was a really good photo shoot there, buddy. But so get out, explore, get to know where it is you want to go buy, and then talk to your lender, talk to your realtor. And it's one of the ones I use a lot of cliches and a lot of sayings, but teamwork makes the dream work. Work with your agent, work with your lender, explore the neighborhood, talk to the schools if you have kids, if you don't have kids, take a look, whatever your interests are, just open your eyes and drive the neighborhoods, and it'll make it a lot more pleasurable purchase when you do find a home that you really like.
That actually happened to me recently with one of, well, with a property. It's just vacant land, but I was taking a buyer one day over there, and it was fine. It was quiet. It was peaceful, and they needed to think about it. And so the next day, I have somebody else interested in it. So I'm, meeting them at vacant land properties to discuss. And I took him over there, and we got out of our vehicles, and he goes, I can already tell you, I'm not interested. We can't do barking dogs. I was like, those dogs weren't there the other day.
Yeah, because the guy he showed yesterday planted the dogs there for
Yeah,
anybody else that went to look at it so they wouldn't buy.
I don't know, but the dogs were there and they were
Yeah.
barking.
Yeah, that's how you got to explore the neighborhood. You got to explore, and like I say, Dana. I always talk about the house Dana and I built. It's going on 5 years now, but we did the same thing. We drove around. We drove the neighborhood. Knew we were looking for cul-de-sac because the kids were still younger. Now they're you know, somehow they grew up to adults within 5 years. Maybe we just pictured they were younger then, but
Mhm.
you know, we found the cul-de-sac area. We found the central location of where we wanted to be. It checked all the boxes. And so realtors we listen. And that's part of our job, is to listen to what you're looking for, buyers. But you also have to go find that area and make sure that once we make the offer and once we close escrow, then you're not sitting there going, dang, I wish I wouldn't have done this.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I got one more thing to add to that too. Is in you know, you're talking about location and stuff, but as we are start showing the showing process and we start showing you houses, it becomes really important to help us find the right thing for you as realtors, to communicate with your agent and let them know what you like or don't like about houses. Don't leave us guessing, because we can't help you if you haven't let us know what you like or don't like about certain properties. That helps us to learn. You know, we're learning what you like as we go, and that's an important process about going out and seeing some houses as well.
yeah, so when a realtor asks you, does this check all the boxes? We're not trying to do the close on you. We're trying to make sure we're showing you the right stuff. And if you say, no, this doesn't check, please tell us. If there's something, we're not offended. We work for you. We're here to help you. So if something that we're showing you is not quite nailing it, let us know so we can adjust, because our system, you know, we're in there all the time. We're looking at it. A lot of the buyers, you know, we set you up on portals where you can get in, you can look at stuff. But, you know, us being experienced, we know how to click in our systems to pull up, you know, a tighter choice of homes to go out and show you. And you know what? If your requirements change because we've been looking at houses, and then all of a sudden you decide, well, you know, I thought this was important, but it's not as important as it was, so I want to take this off the list. Don't keep that to yourself. Let us know, because I can tell you probably 75% of the time when people choose the house, I sit there and think to myself, or I'll say to Dana, I didn't see that one coming.
Not even close to what we thought we were looking for, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
The
all right.
starting and ending criteria are a lot of times not even close to the
Yeah,
same.
but it's understand, because buyers are not, because they're looking on the internet. So it's until you get out there and enter the homes and walk the homes and visit the neighborhoods. You know, it's like everything else. It looks good on paper, but we got to get out there and be part of reality to make sure, is that what you really want? And so that's the key, is communicating with us, because we communicated to get this process started. It will change throughout the process. You'll decide, well, that wasn't as important to me as I thought it was. You know what? Being an extra 5 minutes from the grocery store is not that important to us, we thought. Being an extra, and I think, Jared, you just went through this one here on one you just did. They were an extra, what, 15, 20 minutes away from work,
Yep.
and realized, well, you know, it's drive time. And here's the way I look at it. Do you know that the average song on the stereo is 3 minutes? So I always joke with people and say, yeah, you're really an extra 4 minutes or 4 songs away from work. Like, oh, you're right. You know, so that'll go pretty quickly. So it's all in perspective, how you look at it, what your importance are. Is it your drive time to work, to the grocery store, to church, to the lake, to wherever it might be? Those are probably going to adjust on you before you in the buying process.
And what's important to you might not be important to me, so it's important to communicate all of that stuff
Right.
from one
Yeah,
person
I
to the
agree.
next.
Exactly. Exactly. So we've touched on buyers today. That's just a short version. We'll get into more what buyers need to know as we go along. Our next session that we're going to be coming up to is going to be a seller session, where we're going to talk about sellers and what they need to know. And then we're going to probably put together a little buyer seller. We're going to bring in a lender probably the next go around. We got some more to do with Mike on home inspections. Does anybody have anything else they want to add for buyers? A little knowledge to give to the buyers before we wrap up?
I think this was really good. It covered a lot of territory, I think. I
Yeah.
would like, well, I was going to say, I would like for, our viewers to definitely comment and ask us questions because we'd be happy to answer all of your questions. That's our goal on here is to answer your questions and help you in your buying process. And the best way that we can do that is if you comment and ask your questions and let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, communicate with us. We want, better us. I want to learn something new every day. Better us. Tell us what you're looking for. Let us help you. And in case you don't know, real quick, I know I'm the one that always overruns everything. We have systems to where if you're just starting out looking for homes, you don't have to stock all the different software that's out there. Call us. We have a drip system, what we call the drip system, where we'll put in the criteria of what you're looking for and it'll shoot you out automatic emails. That's the best way to get it going because then you can take a look at it and say, can we change this? Can we change that? Hey, I just hit the lottery. Maybe we can increase the price. Or you know what? Maybe let's decrease the price. So let us start out right away. Let's be your first contact before you get going. Then we can help direct you to all the other places that you may need to make this a successful venture for all of us.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We appreciate it. Again, you get us unscripted, unedited, real life, and we enjoy every minute talking to you guys. Please, like Rovina said, leave comments, suggestions on what you'd like to see for future episodes, and we'll be more than happy to accommodate you.
And
Thank you, everybody.
like and subscribe as
Yeah.
well.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.